Hello friends, in this particular video I'm going to talk about Django REST Framework. That means I'm going to deal with Application Programming Interface API. So what this API are about? Let me go for the graphical representation. As you can see over here, I have got a Postman, a software with the help of which I will be performing my API testing. The Postman will provide us different types of requests in the form of get, post, put, delete, and even patches also there. Then this data goes to my Django REST Framework DRF, and inside DRF we will be having different subsections like serializer, ViewSet, authentication or permission, and all these will involve with routing. So as you can see over here, serializer will contribute some information to the routing, and routing will also check its authentication, and that will be correlated with the database, which can be in the form of Postgres or SQLite. Now once we are done with this, we will deal with different type of API endpoints, and these API are intended for a web browser, or it can be a single page application in the form of React or a framework like Angular, or even it can be a mobile application. Apart from this, the API can also work with IoT or even different type of automobile devices. So this DRF will help us to perform reusability, efficiency, and it will keep each end as separate. So hence it is loosely coupled, or decoupling is taking place over here, so that we can target a particular endpoint separately and can address their respective problem. And that's the beauty of API. So in order to implement API, what I need to do? Well, first I have to install Django REST Framework, and once I've done that, let me bring you to my project. I have given the project name as first. So if I expand my settings.py, I will show you over here something interesting. Well, I have created three different apps. Why? Because the first app deals with function based view in context to API. The second app deals with class based view in regard to API, and lastly I will deal with ViewSet, because if you see the diagram, we have got views as well as ViewSet. So individual app I have created to demonstrate how REST framework will be implemented. So in this particular video I'm just focusing on the class based, I'm starting with the function based view, and then in my next I will go for class, and next to next I will go for ViewSet. So that's how I will be coming up with three different videos where I will be illustrating the same model, the same database. As you can see over here, the same database will be targeted in different ways, and we'll try to come across these subsections. As I said, that in order to work with Django REST Framework, we need to install REST_framework, and once we've done that, we are good to start with. So let's get into the urls.py of my project, and here it is. So this is for my function based view, this is called my class based view, and this is for the ViewSet. So let's open the app that deals with function based view. As I click over here, the URL of my app that deals with function based view is in front. So as you can see over here, we have got 5 different routes, because each of these routes are going to perform different function in context to HTTP request. So let me address these routes individually, and let me close the project stuff as well. By the way, you remember that I came to this route with the help of URL that is having a string, URL string as a customer. So the customer should be after localhost colon 8000, then it should be customer and followed by the rest of the routes. Well, as we saw in the diagram, that we need Postman to perform the testing part. So let me open the Postman as well, and here I have created a collection by the name called drf_customer_2, and I have created 3 different folders: ViewSet, class based view, function based view. So let me expand the function based view to show you all the different API routes, and we saw over here that there are 5 routes. So for that reason, over here we have got 5 endpoints. Sound interesting, isn't it? So the first one deals with the register_customer. So for that reason I click on this post route. That will open me the endpoint for register. So we already saw that the project urls.py has got customer, and then we come to the empty endpoint for the app URL, and that's the reason why we have got local_8,000 / customer. So whatever object I will send, that will directly affect this particular function based view. So let's minimize this and let's come to this particular function to understand what is there right over here. Well, I have got 5 different functions, as you can understand, because we have got 5 different endpoints. Now in order to work with Django REST Framework, we of course need something called model. So let me open the model file as well. Well, this is the common model I will be using for all 3 different type of HTTP requests. That means function based view, class based view and ViewSet, they all will be using this particular model only, and that will demonstrate that any of the format will be good enough to start with. Now along with this, we also need something called serializer. As you saw in the diagram, we need something called serializer, and for that reason I have a file called serializer. So if you notice over here, I have got 2 files. One is called serializer_manual and one is serializer_py. Now why did I do this? Well, in context with the professional world, of course you need to work on serializer.py because it will inherit ModelSerializer. But if you want to work with manual way, then you can inherit the base class, that is serializer. And in that case you have to take the whole responsibility to write down every bit of code. So just for the experiment purpose, I have gone for serializer, but as of the professional stuff is concerned, you will be confined with ModelSerializer. Now one thing I need to tell you over here is, even if you're working on ModelSerializer, if you expand this class, you will find that the ModelSerializer is also inheriting serializer. So whatever is there in the regular serializer, those will be extended to ModelSerializer, plus we will also get the benefit of the class ModelSerializer. So that's the reason it's good to start with this one. But yes, many times in interview they do ask about the serializer class, so for that reason I have kept this in context as a reference for the interview question. Okay, so here we have serializer, here we have model. Well, in this particular project I am not addressing the authentication part or permission part. We will deal with separately, because otherwise this video will become too extended. So I am focusing primarily on serializer and view and ViewSet part. This will be a topic of discussion for the upcoming videos. In fact, I already have video in context to authentication and permission in my channel, so if you want you can refer to them. So now let's get started. So the first route is register route. So let me click on this and let me come to the register function based view. Now one important thing is that since we are dealing with API, so for that reason, after we have installed REST_framework dependency, we will be able to use a decorator called app_view decorator, and that will pass a specific HTTP request, as you saw in the diagram. See over here, this request have been forwarded. So that means each function will belong to one of the specific HTTP request type, and we will explore all them individually. So right now the decorator will let us know that which particular HTTP request this particular function is addressing. Well, I also have a video in my channel where I have talked about the detail of decorator. So if you want to get into that, please refer to that video, where you will understand how decorator works, because decorator in Python is really very important. And as you can see over here, in API decorator is there. Even when we deal with authentication permission, decorator will be there as well. So please go and check the video in regard to decorator. So the thing will go like this way. I have my API endpoint, I will provide the URL, and then I will provide this particular raw object inside my body, and this is of type JSON, and I will be getting a response also in the form of JSON. Okay, but you need to be a bit careful over here is this JSON is of the class response, which belongs to the package REST_framework.response. So it is not a JSON response what we have seen in regular HTTP template or in the render function, but rather this is a response that belongs to REST framework. So keep that thing in mind. Okay, so now let me expand this function based view to understand what it has got. As you can see in the postman, I am passing 3 data: name, address and dictionary, I mean department. So for that reason I have received those through this particular request. Even the request is also of type REST framework dot request. So I can change this. So request. So this is the request of HTTP response framework, and this is going to be the request. So now I can write over here that this is a request of the REST framework. So from there, with the help of the get method, I'm extracting the individual key that I've mentioned and assigning them the respective string variables, name, address, and department. The reason why I did this is that because I have got 3 attributes in my model, and created and updated at their date and time will be updated automatically. So I'm emphasizing on these 3 parameters, these 3 attributes. So I'm just checking once that whether I've given the value to all these attributes or not. In case if I didn't do, then it will send me an error that will be reflected in my Postman with the status code of 400. Otherwise, what I will do is that I'm going to give a call to my model, and the model, this here is my model, it will create an object of the model, and that object I'm going to save, and finally this will get stored inside my SQLite database. So you can click on the SQLite database, and I can bring you to my where is my database. So here is the database table, and as you can see, it has got 3 records right now. So here the data will be added. So after the data has been added, I will send a response in the form of JSON, and that response will have following information that I'm going to forward to my front end with the status code of 200. Very straightforward functionalities, isn't it? So now just let me run the code and show you how the thing is going to work. So currently you saw there are 3 tuples are there. So now I come to my Postman and I provide one more new data, suppose Suzanne, and she's from Bangalore, and he deals with a department called IT. And now let me click on the send button. Let me reduce this. Yeah. So I will click on the send button to see the response that I'm expecting, whether I get the same response or not. And this is the response what I'm expecting. Well, by the way, my server is already on, so I can run my code now. So let's click over here, and I do that, and you see the customer registration is successful, and it has been shown over here, the name and the department I have forwarded. For that reason, you're getting a response of 201 status. Great. So I believe this data has been inserted successfully. So let's come to my database table, and let's go for a reload over here to see the change, and you can see the ID has been generated automatically, and the date and time has also been inserted by default, and this is a record that I've just now I gave. So that's how this particular REST API endpoint is working. So now what I can do is that I can check my next API endpoint. So I will get to the collection again, and this time I will go for display. So let me click display, and let me collapse this, and let me close this. So how the display route is going to work? Again, the project route is going to be customer, the app route is going to be display, and this will give me call to this following function based view. So let me minimize this, and let's come over here, little bit expand this, and here it goes. Well, in context to display, we have to come across serializer. So when we inserted the record at that point of time, we did not use serializer, although we can also use serializer for the purpose of insertion. But I was using the model directly, so for that reason during the registration part you didn't find any serializer code. But with the help of serializer also you can insert the record, that is fine. So let's get into these 3 lines to see how exactly it is working. Well, by default it is going to be a get request. As you can see over here, the request is of type get. And here is my endpoint. The customer is the route which we saw in the project level, and this is the app level display statement, as you can figure out right over here. Okay. So what I'm going to do is that I'm checking whether the request type is get. Yes, of course it is type get. So what I will do is that I'm giving a call to my ORM. So as you can see in the diagram, we will be invoking ORM. With the help of ORM, the data will come and will get stored inside my reference, which is of type QuerySet. So this QuerySet is the type that SQLite deals with, but I need to work on this QuerySet in context of my Python. So I need to convert the QuerySet into native data type so that the Python or Django can work on, and that's the reason why we need to work on serializer. And here we go, this is the serializer which is inheriting the base class. So if you want to work on the base class serializer, you have to mention all the models attribute that you need to work on. Okay, as you can see over here, my model has got following attribute. I have to mention all them manually, and that's really a tough job, because if you make a mistake over here, then definitely that will create a problem. So if you look over here, the ID is going to be auto generated. That's the reason it's read only, because we are not going to edit ID. The date and time, as you can see in the model, is also going to be auto generated. So for that reason we will just use date and time for the purpose of reading only, and this is the format by which the date time pattern will be shown over here. Okay, so we have to mention this separately. Along with this, we also need to mention the create method and the update method for performing save and updation if you are using serializer, for that reason. And if you are using the model view serializer, in that case you don't have this kind of hassle. Rather we will use something called meta. So as you can see in the model serializer, here I have given a call to this attribute because I want to transform the pattern in which the data is shown. If you see over here, this data of date time is not in the format of human readable, it's actually the machine readable format. So I need to convert this in a format so that I can understand it in a much better way. So for that reason, this is the format which I am using, where it is going to show me the date, the month, the year, the hour, the minute, and the second. That's how the thing is going to work on. Okay, so that's the format I'm going to mention, and it's going to read only. So where from I will get the data? So for that reason we give a call to the class meta, and inside meta we have to mention the model class name, where from the data will come, and which other attribute do I need to display in my front end. That I will put it in context to tuple. Okay, that's all. We just mentioned the attribute name that will be displayed in my front end. But in case of serializer base class, we have to mention even their data types also, and that will be in the form of serializer, and then we have to mention the respective functions, just like the way we do in the model. If you see the model, we have got model followed by character field, and here we have got the serializer followed by the respective function. So this is a bit challenging if you have to go for this, but for the sake of interview purpose, it's good to know that what these things are all about. Okay, great. So we are going to give a call to our serializer, and here we are using the base serializer. As you can see, this is inheriting the base serializer, and which particular query set I want to convert. Here is a query set, and since the query set will be having multiple tuples, for that reason you have to enable the flag called menu true. That means it will convert all the query set or individual query set reference into the native Python dictionary. And finally this dictionary was stored inside a list, and that will be stored inside the reference called serializer. And finally we'll forward the serializer in the form of response of type REST framework to the front end with the status of 200 or 201, whatever you feel like. No problem with that. So that's the status code. So now let's come to my Postman, let's come to my display tab, and here it is, and let me click on the send button. I'm expecting the record to be shown over here, and you can see 201 and all the object that was there in my SQLite table, as you can see right over here. Let me reload it one more time, and here it is, and that what you are seeing right over here as well. Okay, so that's how your display is working, and you saw over here that in order to display I'm using the serializer, and whatever attribute I mentioned, it is showing me exactly in that format. See over here, it is showing me ID, it is showing me name, it is showing me address, it is showing me created ad, and the pattern also been very clearly shown. It's showing me date, it's showing me month, it's showing me a month of 3 initial letters. Okay, you can write even the complete month also, and then it's showing me year, it's showing me the hour, it's showing the minute, and AM and PM, that also has been shown over here. Okay, we can also see we can also go for the second also, but I did not go for second. So that's how the data has been shown, and if you want to get this data through the help of serializer, then this is the pattern that you have to call, and just you have to give a call to this particular class rather than giving a call to my customer serializer manual. Will replace this with the customer serializer, and output will be all the same. So I can show you that. Let me copy this and let me put it over here, and let's run the code again to see that will there be any change. No, the output is very same over here, and see now it is showing me the complete because I have written the uppercase. So let's come over here, and I have written the month in the form of B in uppercase, and that's the reason why you are seeing the complete month name. So for that reason you can find out that there are two different ways by which you can implement serializer. You are going for model serializer, the code snippet is much lesser compared to the manual serializer. Okay, so that's how the thing goes, and whichever serializer class you feel like, you can call it. Okay, that's great. So that's how the display is working. Let's move to the patch. So patch is basically partial update. So again, the customer will be the root route, and then we will come to the update underscore patch underscore API. So now, of course, you have to mention that which particular tuple or which particular record you want to update. For that reason, you have to pass over here query parameter. So this is like a placeholder who will hold the ID of the specific record that you want to update. Well, let me show you from Postman. Let me close this. Let me expand my collection. Let me come to my patch, the partial update. See over here, I have to mention the primary key, the one which I want to update. Okay, so I have already got the following record, and now suppose I want to update one of them. I want to update Johnny. Okay, I want to update Johnny whose ID is 8. So what I will be writing over here is, suppose I want to change the name of Johnny and rest of the other attribute will remain the same. So I will write over here the ID, that is 8, because Johnny's ID is 8, and I will write Johnny Lever. So Johnny and Lever, Johnny Lever. That's what I will be writing, and rest of the thing all will be same. I will click on the send button. See over the request type is patch. So before I get into the execution part, let's come to the view part to understand how patch is going to work. So we already saw that in our URL we have to pass the ID. So I need to store the ID, and for that reason I need a placeholder. The way you define the placeholder is that you have to wrap up the placeholder variable. Yeah, you can consider this pk to be a variable within the angular bracket, and then you have to specify the data type. What type of variable is this? So naturally, this particular data which you are passing in the URL, you have to receive that, and for that reason you have an extra parameter over here called pk. Well, I have just defined the pk, but along with this I can also write none over here. Got it? And again, this request is of type request from the request class. That also I can write it. So by default the pk is going to have none unless and until we don't supply the data. But if I supply the data, the none will be replaced by that data. Now we are going to give a call to my ORM so that it can collect data from the table on basis of the pk. This pk is coming from the field, and this pk is the variable name which I have used over here. So now two things can happen. Either record may be there or record may not be there. Because of that reason, I have wrapped up within the try except block, so that in case if the record does not exist, the following message will be shown at the front end. So let's give a try with some wrong data. Suppose I don't have 99, and let me click on the send button. As I do that, immediately we get an error because we don't have this. The error comes up, customer not found. Okay, so if I come to the terminal, we see oh, by mistake I have given let me stop the server and let's rerun the server once again. Let's rerun it, and here it comes. Let's try to run it once again. Let's see what happened this time. As I do this, yes, now the error is shown very nicely. Customer not found, this error is shown, and it is a 404 error because the resource is not found. Right? So in case if the resource is not available, then the except block will come in picture. Otherwise it will continue the work. So otherwise what will happen, this will collect the data from the table and it will be of type customer. So we need to convert that, and for that reason again we are going to give a call to serializer. So here we are passing the respective record, the complete record that has been extracted from the table. That's what I am passing over here, along with the new data that I am passing over here. That will be inside the request.data that goes right over here. And since this is a partial update, so the flat partial has to be true. So this serializer will be responsible for converting this data into the table with the other data as well. And we are going to perform a validation. Well, we can talk about validation in context serializer. Well, in this video I'm not talking about that, but yes, serializer can also handle validation of separate attributes separately. That can be subject of discussion from some other video. And once this is done, and now we are going to give a call to the save method. So after updation is done, we are going to give a call to save, and finally the data will be saved with the status code of 200 provided the ID exists. So let's come over here. What is the ID of Johnny? Let me reload it one more time. Yeah, Johnny ID is 8. So let's come over here and let me remove this, and this time I'm going with the ID 8. I click on the send button, and now you see the entire record, because that's what the code was It's demonstrating. See, it will save the entire thing and it will send me the serialized data. So the whole code came in picture and we got the Johnny lever, right? So let's come to my table and let's reload it once again to see that yes, the real implementation has been taken care. So here is the one that got added. Great. So we did this with the custom serializer. We can also do it with the manual serializer as well. Okay, so that's how the update segment is working, and we saw that very nicely this thing has been dealt. So now we can move on the full update. So this was a partial update. Now we come to put. So you can see the URL. In case of put, I'm not passing any query params over here. So quite naturally there is no need for the second parameter, rather we can just have the request over here. But inside the data, of course, there will be ID. Well, let me open the collection and then we go for the full update, and here it is. So I'm sending the complete object. As you can see over here, customer is my root and the patch and the app URL is update underscore put underscore API. I've given this kind of name so that you can understand which URL I'm working on. So here it is, and which record I want to update. Let me just reload it one more time. Let's decide. Let's go with Peter Parker. I will change Peter Parker. I will change the location Delhi to Kolkata. That's what I'm going to do, and I will be changing the department also from sales to marketing. So I will have the ID as 3. So let me put the ID as 3 over here, and let the name be as it is. So I will just put the name the way it is. Great. And address is, I will put the address as Kolkata, and let the department cell. Okay, you can keep it as sales also, no problem. Okay, so whichever attribute you want to change, only modify those attributes. Rest of the attribute keep it as it is. That's the thing, that's the logic, and that's the difference between the patch. The patch was taking only one attribute, but this is taking all the attribute. Whatever data you don't want to change, keep the previous data, and only change required are those where you want to insert the new data. Created that, updated that you don't need, because this will be auto generated. Fine. So now when I will click on the send button, as you can see over here, there is no query params. So for that reason the data will come over here. So what it will do, it will pick up this ID, and it will check whether that ID actually exists or not. Okay, again, if the ID is invalid, so it will say ID not provided. If ID is not there, if ID is not there. So let me just check out this one. I'm just removing the ID intentionally, and let's see what happens this time. I click on the send button and it says that ID not provided. So this part works perfectly well with 404 error. Okay, so that means ID is essential, because otherwise how it will determine which particular field it wants to modify. So ID is done. Now when I give the ID, again two things can happen. The ID may be correct, may not be correct. So we saw ID of Peter is 3, but I intentionally make it 30, and by 30 there is no ID record present. So naturally customer not found will come in picture. See, everything is working so straightforward. Now I remove this and I'm keeping the correct one, and now I'm going to pass the data. Again, the data, it will pick up the original record, it will pass to serializer, convert it, and then come back to the validation and save it, and then we'll see the entire record, the new record with Peter Parker in Kolkata and then sales. So let's click on this, and now you see the complete record, and the location also got changed. Okay, so now let's come to my table to see the real implementation. Previously the Peter was staying in Delhi, now it is in Kolkata, and sales remain the sales. So let me reload the tab to see that yes, Delhi got changed to Kolkata and sales remain the sales as it is. So that's how the put API call, which is going to work on the complete updation, work smoothly. So now we are left with the last API call, and that is called delete underscore API, and that will bring us through this particular thing over here also. So let me close this and let me open the last API endpoint for this particular video, and that is called delete. I believe this video will definitely help you to understand how exactly the API request in context to function based view is going to work. So here I just need to pass the ID and it will do the magic. So I will delete which record. Okay, let me delete the ID number 8. So I will remove the ID number 8. So let me provide over here 8. Again, if it's not valid, then this part will also come in picture if it is not provided. And if it is valid, then only this portion will work. Again, it will pick up the row from the table, it will pass over here, it will delete the row. Okay, it will delete that particular row, and after deleting it will just keep the data as it is. That means n-1 data will be there in my model. So let's come over here, let's click this, and as I do that, the message customer deleted successfully has been shown over here with the status scores of 200. And now this particular record I don't expect will be there in my table. So what I can do is that from here also I can give a call to the previous get request to see whether that record is there or not. So I will give a call to my display, and if I give a call now, you will find that record is no more. See, it's not there anymore. So let's come to my table even, and let me, previously it was having 4 record, I just remove the record number 8. So as I reload, the record number 8 is also no more. That means these is very much aligned to the one which is shown at the database table also. That's how we have covered all the 5 API endpoints, and you saw how exactly the Django REST framework is working, and you also saw the beauty of using serializer. We were working on the function based view. The second video will be in context to class based view, and the third video will be in context to ViewSet, and that's how this entire REST framework will be implemented. I believe this particular video will be very helpful. I worked on a single model. You can also go for multiple model, but the main purpose of this video was to make you understand how exactly DRA works, what is the difference between serializer and ModelSerializer, and in what way you can adjust the attributes. Even I did not cover the validation part. I will definitely take care about that one. Nonetheless, this video will surely be helpful to you guys. Okay, so that's all from this video presentation. See you soon. Bye bye.